everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining me for yet another SpouseLink live stream designed for military spouses who are thinking about military retirement, experiencing military retirement, or who have crossed over into retirement and are now living a civilian life. So just to start, pop into the comments. Tell me where you're from. I'd love to hear what part of the world you're living in. Feel free to comment and share as we go through this live stream today. We really value what you have to say and what additional questions you have about these topics. And I am the kind of person that's going to respond and make sure you get the information you need. So please feel free to drop comments in. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Anna Larson. By trade, I am a copywriter and digital marketer. I'm also a homeschool mom, and about 8 months ago, my active duty military spouse retired, and so now I am a retired military spouse. The year that my soldier retired, granted there was the COVID issues as well, but that retirement process was not easy. I would term it as being a very difficult transition for our family. And that struggle led me to SpouseLink and AFMA, which is the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association, where now I am working through SpouseLink to support military spouses to get retirement and transition information, resources, and to find a community of support as you go through this time. So that is what I'm here to do today. Today we are talking about the benefits you keep and the benefits you're going to lose. And I'm going to do this with my guest, Sarah Bumgardner. She's amazing. And if you haven't met Sarah from my first live stream where we kind of talked about this finance series and what we were going to do, then I'm excited for you to meet her today because she knows what she's talking about. Not only was she a military spouse, actually, let me just pull her up really quick and let me show you what Sarah's all about. So not only is Sarah a military spouse for 11 years, but she has been working and serving as AFMA as a senior Veterans Affairs coordinator in Western Virginia. And then she also worked as the SpouseLink ambassador for the Camp Lejeune area and the relationship manager for AFMA's Wealth Management and Trust. And then finally, she is now the member benefits coordinator, and she works specifically with retiring military families. In her free time, she is the mother of 2 boys. She likes spending time outdoors, helping others. She graduated from Auburn University with a health and hospital administration degree and a minor in business. And she loves helping people. So I'm going to throw Sarah into this live stream so we can get it started. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Anna. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad to be here today.
I'm so excited to have you here as well. I'm excited. We've got a couple of people that are joining us right now on this live. So I'm super excited about that because we have an amazing conversation that we're going to be doing today, right?
Yeah, we do. I'm so excited about it. So this is going to be the beginning of our financial mini series. This is when we really start getting into it. But how is 2020 going for you so far? Like, how are things going?
Well, first of all, it's 2022.
2022. See, I'm 2 years behind. It's 2022. Betty White died earlier this year, like, I don't know, 8 days ago. And my whole world got shook. And I was like, I don't know what we're doing now. This is it. There's a pandemic. She's passed away. I just don't know anymore.
Right? Yes. I have to be honest. I was expecting this like fantastic like entrance into the new year. And it's like the new year hit and I was in this funk and I'm like, oh, I've got to pull myself out of this. And it was really interesting. I had someone that said in a message to me, just said, honor like the trauma and the drama and the stress and anxiety you went through last year. Like, it was like this transition was, it was a really big transition and so many things happened. We left the service, active duty service, we moved, all these things. She's like, take a break, like give yourself a break. It's okay if you're like starting the new year and you're like, I'm so glad last year is over.
And that's a kind of a great way to approach this mini series. It's a fresh restart, right? So it's like, let's just get focused and restart and think of things like what we can do, right? And this is especially for people who are getting ready to transition or who have transitioned. These are all the things that I wish I wish I'd known this 4 years ago, right? Like I wish that I had this platform of somebody to say, these are the things you need to be doing to be financially secure, to transition well in this.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so excited to be here today. And thank you for having me and for SpouseLink. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's make sure we introduce kind of what we're doing. Let me throw this up again and go to the next slide. Oh, well, let's start with this actually. So, no, actually, I'm going to move forward and we're going to come back to that. Let's start with this. So, our finance mini series today, we're talking about just kind of a foundational conversation: benefits you keep and benefits you lose. We have 3 additional conversations we're going to have over the next 2 months. We're spacing them about 2 weeks apart because in between, Sarah and I are going to be throwing out some tools and some tips and some handouts where you can take the information that we talk about and actually do something with it. And then also have time to reach out to people if you would like Sarah and her team, to get more information about any one specific thing. So today, like I said, we're talking about the benefits you keep and benefits you lose, which is that foundational information. And then we're going to move into budgeting after retirement. And can I just tell you, the one thing Sarah said about this topic that really hit me hard is she's like, this isn't like, for the next year. We're talking about the next 30 to 50 years of your life. Yep. If that doesn't just like take you back, like make you step back and like pedal back and go, whoa, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're not going to be like, here's how you create a budget for your grocery list. No, that's not what it is. And then the third one is your TSP. If you're anything like our family, we were like, we don't really know what to do with it. So we're going to talk about the options you have, what you can do with it. And then lastly, one of those giant conversations: do you take Survivor Benefit Plan, SBP, or are you looking at getting life insurance? Do you need both? Which one's better for your family? Sarah's going to run you through all of that information. So I'm really super excited about this. Okay, backing up now, Sarah, can you do me a favor and just talk to me just really quickly? This slide really talks about AFMA's fiduciary responsibility, and I feel like this is really important to this conversation. So can you just talk about this a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, we talk about AFMA. We are many things here. We're a life insurance company, a mortgage service company. We have member benefits team that help walk people through the transitioning process, talk about VA claims, things like that. But we're a wealth management and trust company. And with that comes a fiduciary standard. And that word fiduciary is so important because that means that we have to act in the best interest of our client, right? By law. That's the crux of it. There's no way around that. And so it makes us really different from a lot of other organizations. Not only do we work exclusively with the military, but we're a fiduciary company, which means we have to give information and we have to do what's in the best interest of our clients. And that's really important as you're starting any sort of financial journey. It's just understanding that word and understanding what fiduciary means. So
yeah.
Thank
you, Sarah. I just think this is so important. So there's not like this like monetary value that Sarah's placing on you guys hearing this information. There's nothing that they're getting from this necessarily other than to help guide military families down the path that's going to work best for them. Because it really, when it comes down to it, we are always saying it is so unique to every family, but my family has this special circumstance, and that is like a standard among military families. So that's one of the things I love about having Sarah on and AFMA be part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to just move right on in with the very first conversation, right? So Sarah, can you tell us, let me remove this really quick. And can you tell us the very first thing, which is, sorry, I'm doing all the things all at once, but all right.
Aren't we always?
What benefits are military families going to keep?
Right. So this is a big one. And this is how we're going to start the conversation and how we're going to start this transition process. And we're going to start the budgeting. This is almost a precursor to that. So we're going to start with what are we going to keep or even gain? And we've, Ann and I have created actually a timeline document outlining this, and we'll have that available for you guys in the next week. But as you're transitioning down this road, we want to talk about where we're going to live. And that's the first approach to this. And hang with me, everything is a layering effect. So before I can jump in and I can start telling you what to save and how to save it and do all this, we got to start at the fundamentals. And that's really difficult sometimes for military families, as we've talked about. We're kind of thinking of the right now, right this moment, the mission critical, and we need to think a little bit further ahead. And this timeline is going to be, it's great. It's a great timeline for this. And so we're talking about where we're going to live. That's going to be the first thing. And this is really important because for the first time in your life, you get to choose where you're going to get to live, right? We've never got to have that option. And you can live anywhere. And where you live and choose to live is going to have a direct impact on your cost of living, your budget, taxes. It's going to directly affect, it's the base layer, it's the foundation to our house, right? It's going to directly affect that. So we've got, and I think, Anna, do you have the graph? We have a great graph that shows tax benefits. And and this is great. So this kind of shows you what's military friendly states to live in. There is a wonderful link. It's we can drop that in the comments as well. It's a myarmybenefits.usa link. And then there's a smartasset.com. I love the smartasset.com. You can go in and you can actually, through this link, you can plug in your income, right? Oh, here it is. Oh, you're so great, Anna. Okay. You can plug in your income. You can plug in where you're going to live, and it's going to tell you what you can expect to pay in taxes. And so this is so important because this is our base layer, right? We need to now pick where in the world are we going to live, and it's going to have a direct impact. So as we start this layering process, and this is kind of all the precursor to our next one, our budgeting, we think about, and we talked about TSP. We're going to get to keep that, right? It doesn't just disappear. You've saved that money. We will talk about, how to save and the best way to save. But TSP, you get to keep it, but it kind of stays frozen right now. So you need to understand, what am I going to do with this, right? So this is that layering effect, one of the big ones. I get to keep this, but what do I do with it? Do I understand it? Can I move it? You can move it to another brokerage firm that can actively manage it for you, or you can keep it there and you can manage it yourself. So it's one of the things we get to keep, but we need to start thinking about, what are we going to do with it? And when we do the budgeting, we're going to get to that place of, here are options, and here's actually understanding the TSP when we talk about the savings and investing. So our next thing that we get to keep, right, because we're talking about the good news, you get to keep all these things, is TRICARE. Now, if you're going to separate completely from the service, you're going to lose that completely. You'll lose all of that. And then, if you're retiring, though, you get to keep it, but it's going to cost you now, right? So it's going to cost you, and you have to be prepared for that cost. Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to say, one of the things that you had mentioned is that with TRICARE, you go from when you pay, you still pay for your healthcare when you're in the military, right? But it's very minimal. And then when you retire, all of a sudden that cost expands pretty significantly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. So when you're in the military, you're paying $34 a month to have healthcare. That is, pennies compared to what you're going to pay after service, even as a retiree. And we're gonna go through this, and as we start transitioning through these layers, you're going to see, and I have a table that I'm going to show you the difference here, so you can really kind of see the difference in what we're talking about here financially. And that's really important. So you're paying $34, and then all of a sudden you're going to start paying as a retiree upwards of $600 to keep that. Or in the civilian world, about $6,400, $6,500. So these are huge, when you're talking about these losses. One of the other losses, or actually, I think, I think we've got another great slide, right? To have
Yeah,
that.
we do. Let me move this over. These are the 4 things that we had talked about.
Mm-hmm. And these are the 4 big ones. So as we start this layering effect, our first layer is where are we going to live, right? We get to choose now and gain that ability. We need to know financially what that means, and giving you kind of some resources to do that and figure out the math of it. What are we going to keep? Well, you get to keep that TSP, but what are you going to do with it? And then our health care. If you're retiring, you get to keep that, but it's going to cost you. But if you aren't, you're going to lose it. Now, there's these other aspects. There's 3 other ones outside this healthcare, right? Is our life insurance. So we're going to lose these things when we leave the service. And SGLI, you'll lose it. It's 180 days after service. And did you realize, because I didn't, that you pay between $5 and $35 for life insurance? That's I don't even know what to say to that. $5 for $100,000 worth of coverage is what a military spouse gets, and $35 for $400,000. It's going to cost you way more out in the civilian world for that, and it's just the fact of the matter. So we need to be prepared for this loss. We need to be prepared as well for losing that BAH and that BAS. Right? You don't get that anymore when you're in the civilian world. They don't have that.
Yeah.
Special duty pay, they don't have that either. So, and I'll show you kind of the numbers in that as well as we kind of go along. But this is that layering effect. We need to start with what are we gonna lose, and what do we get to keep? Right? We need to decide where are we going to live and the financial impact of that. We need to layer onto that, what are we going to lose? And what's it going to cost to replace it?
Yeah. So I love that. And we're really going to talk a lot about that when we talk about our second live stream, where we talk about budgeting and kind of that replacing those items and really understanding what those costs mean to your family in terms of the income that you're going to receive either from retirement pay, maybe disability income, but also when you're getting a new job. So one thing I wanted to ask you about, Sarah, is you mentioned here that life insurance is a loss. So SGLI is the life insurance, right, that you get in the military. But can't you just transfer that to VGLI?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's a great option. And that's a great question. I get that question a lot when talking about these losses. A lot of people say, well, I can just transfer this and convert it over to VGLI. And I say, that's great. But be careful, my friends, because in the long run, it's much more expensive. So it's just something we need to do our due diligence on. And it's, we can kind of drop a link into the VGLI rate table. You can look at that yourself and you can see what that's going to be. You'll notice too, VGLI max out at $400,000. Well, maybe as you start transitioning, you realize I need more coverage. I need $800,000 or $600,000. So it's something to have a conversation. Yeah. And this table will show you, what that looks like. And, part of, getting into the crux of it and things is also understanding the difference between, do I want a temporary life insurance or do I want a more permanent life insurance, something that actually can grow almost like an asset in a way. So these are just things that we have to think about. And that's hopefully my goal here is all the stuff that we were going through when we were transitioning. I wish I had known and sat down and thought about. So it's getting the wheels thinking and it's creating kind of that dialogue. And so, yes, you can convert it. It can be expensive. If it's your only option because of health reasons, then of course, that's what it's made for, really, is for that. But that's a great thing to add, or a great comment to make, and a question that I get a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So then, Sarah, really what it comes down to is, so we have this comparison, these things that we keep, the things we lose. What do we do with this? What's the answer? Where are we going with all of this information?
Right. where do we go with this,
Where
right?
do we
So
go with
it's
it?
a little doom and gloom, I felt like at first. When I got all this, I was like, oh my gosh, you're telling me I'm going to lose all this stuff. It's going to cost me a fortune to now get. And what do I do? One of the things that we can do is let's look at some numbers, right? Great. So let's actually look at some real numbers. Now you can see in this slide, we need to start thinking about the difference in income. And this is that layering effect, right? So before I can tell you how to actually allocate your budget for the long term, you need to know what your budget's going to be, starting with your income, meaning you need to know the basics. Where are we going to live? What are we going to lose? And what's it going to cost to replace it? And what is our income going to be? Well, a lot of people don't realize there's a very big difference between military and civilian pay. And part of that goes into what we're going to lose, right? And you can see right here, you know, and I had no idea. I mean, if we look at this, I said we're going to look at BH. I'm looking for my calculator right now. If we look at this, you can see to get our net pay at the bottom. So hang with me. We're going to do a little bit of math. If you get that net pay at the bottom, you can see that base pay at the top is really different, right? This is an E8, 20 years, retiring, married with one exemption, right? And these are real numbers. So you can see how that BAH and that BAS is adding together, right? And you can see if I take, if I take our new gross pay here, 106, I subtract it by
She's
that's
doing
$21,800. Okay. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And so we have to start thinking about when your service member is getting ready to transition from the service and they're looking at, what's my new income going to be? It can't be the same amount because you've been getting all these extra things and also not paying taxes on a lot of them. And I said earlier, why is where you live so important? Why do I start with that? Right here, $6,500 a year can be saved living in Texas versus Virginia. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So these are the things. Let's look at that TRICARE. Look at that. Like I said, you're paying $34. Then, when you're gonna leave the service, maybe if you're retiring, it's going to be about $600 instead of that 400 number. And the civilian equivalent of that is $6,500. That's the civilian equivalent for health insurance. So all that adds up, right? So it's this layering effect. It's this effect of let's start the conversation of the beginning. Let's layer it up. Let's get to understanding what am I going to get to keep? What am I going to lose? And what is it going to cost me to replace it? Which means what does my new income need to be, right? Just to replace the things I'm going to lose. Not even talking about, the budgeting aspect yet. This is just let's replace what we're going to lose here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. These are such good numbers. Can I just tell you how much I wish that I had a conversation with somebody like Sarah more than 8 months ago? I mean, 8 months ago was our retirement date, right? Like this is something that 1 to 3 years out, military families really need to be looking at. We had a comment a little earlier from Heidi Barker saying, this isn't information the soldier gets when they're active duty. This all comes right at the very end where sometimes it's almost too late to react to it. And then another comment that we had, let me just pull this one up as well. Another comment that just says, not only that, but the soldiers conditioned to finish training modules and get their certificate as fast as possible. So a lot of soldiers are not using this transition process as a learning journey. It's just another thing that they have to get done and get check marked off to clear the installation, to clear the retirement papers, to clear all the things, right? Like this is what we do when we leave a location or finish a job and are moving on to something else. Yeah. So I love that we're talking about this and that just those foundational things. Might be one of my favorite comments of the entire day is poor Leslie. And I believe that's her head exploding right now.
I know, right?
some of these numbers that we are looking
I know. And I try, it's like, I'm a self-proclaimed nerd, right? I love numbers. It's just my thing. And I try, but this is one of the reasons why we do this in small segments, because you can't, it's another thing too, that a lot of times when your veteran is sitting in their transition program, they're sitting there for 4 hours, getting 4 hours worth of information, basically feeding from a fire hose. You're not going to retain it and walk away with a tangible, okay, what do I actually need to do here? And like you said, it's 30 days before you've got to be gone.
Yeah.
And all the things that come with, moving and, setting up a new house and all of these things. And so, I love that this checklist that we're going to put out there, it starts 3 years back. It starts at 1 to 3 years. And then it breaks down month by month. And it's a checklist that's also going to, there it is, this timeline. And this timeline is so great because it's what your veteran, your military service member needs to be doing, right? And us as military spouses, a lot of times we need to be reminding, we need to be staying on top of it. And then things that also we can do, we can tangibly educate ourselves on, we can also start doing. So this is why, I start small with this layering effect. Let's start at the beginning here of really setting ourselves up for success in transitioning, which I wish I had. I didn't do this one great. And now, hopefully other people can.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a question. Where can I get this checklist? So let me tell you, Leslie, right now, the checklist, if you go ahead and jump to this link, I threw it in the comments, but jump to this link and just register. What this does is each of these conversations that we're having, you can only schedule a live stream out so far in advance, in case you didn't know that, right? Like it only gives you like a week in advance. And so if you register for this, we're going to send you this checklist. It's a PDF and you can download it and you can use it and you can share it. And I mean, it's all free, right? This is all great information that's for free. But also by registering to this, we're going to go ahead and make sure that you are up to date on what is coming up. We're going to send you a direct link that's going to give you to each of the upcoming live stream series that Sarah is going to do, the one on budgeting, the one on the TSP, and the one on SBP and life insurance. So that will go in the comments today, and just sign up for it. And then we'll make sure you get that checklist, which, and I'm also going to post it on LinkedIn, and Sarah will post it on LinkedIn. So it will be available all over the place. This is one of the guides that we really wanted to push for the next couple of weeks to make sure that military spouses going through this transition process had something tangible, helpful, and useful. Because what I found when I was transitioning was that didn't really exist. Now, I hadn't met Sarah at that point in time. I'm just going to throw that out there. But something like that didn't exist. And I'm just going to throw my husband under the bus a little bit here, but he was not the best organizer. So I'd be like, hey, I read on this retirement Facebook post about this. And he'd be like, oh, I don't know. I have no idea. And I'm like, well, was it part of your checklist? Because I knew this checklist, this great grand checklist existed, but I had no idea really what was on it, right? And he'd be like, maybe, I don't remember if I did that or not. Right. Yeah. So for me, who's maybe a little bit of a self-proclaimed control freak or just likes to be very involved in something that is a huge transition for our entire family, this is going to be a lifesaver for you.
Yeah. So. And this checklist too, it's everything that's in there. Once you've gotten it and we get that out there to everybody, you can follow along through the series as well. So you can see when I start talking about budgeting, this is where you need to be thinking about that. We can see when we start talking about understanding the TSP, why is that important? What month should I be doing that? So it's a way to kind of also, go through that. Same thing with SBP election. What does that mean? And where should I be thinking about this in my timeline of leaving the service? So
Yeah. So this is that link. I just dropped it in the comments. This is that link that's going to basically give you that information right to your inbox. I promise I don't spam anyone. I'm not adding you to any additional email lists. This is really just about the finance series that Sarah and I are doing, these 4 live streams and this timeline. And then if there are other downloads that we create over this course of this series, those will also be available to those who sign up through this link right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's recap just so we haven't lost anyone, right? Let's do a really quick recap. Benefit summary for retiring military families. Do you want to run them through this, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we talked about, and I could talk about this all day long, right? But I'm going to do it in just a 30-minute little block. Is what we talked about here is our first layer, our foundation layer. So looking at our ability of what we're going to be able to keep and what we're going to lose, looking at where are we going to be able to live, right? This is our first layer, and the benefits of living there, or understanding maybe some of the not so great benefits of living there. You're going to be able to keep that TSP, but we need to know what to do with it, right? And then also that TRICARE, you get to keep it if you're retiring. But I kind of put it in the loss too, because if you're separating, you're going to lose it totally, which is why when I talk about benefits loss in this 4 section, we're talking about the 4 things we're going to lose: life insurance, that special housing, BAH and BAS, special duty pay, and health insurance. Because even though you might get to keep it as a retiree, it's going to cost you now way more. And so this is just kind of a recap of, let's start our foundations. Where are we going to live? What are we going to lose? And what's it going to cost to replace it? And what does that mean for our income? Right? Let's get our income targeted in. What do I need to now be making? So this is kind of our 3 base layer, the foundation of our house that we're going to build everything on. We're going to build that budget. We're going to build that savings. We're going to build that investing. And we're going to talk 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years down the road.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'm just going to move this forward just to recap the upcoming events that we have. On the 27th is budgeting, which Sarah has talked a little bit about. But remember, it's that 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That is something that I think is invaluable. Next, on February 10th, it's our TSP. What can you do with it? And on February 24th, SBP, life insurance, which is, do we need both? Leslie needs you, Sarah.
I'm here, Leslie.
I love this. So funny. And then again, register on that SpouseLink Finance Series bit.ly link that I tossed into the comments, and I'll throw that also into LinkedIn, which doesn't allow me to comment through StreamYard, but I'll throw that also into LinkedIn so you can register and grab that download and then get firsthand information and links directly to our conversations for these upcoming events. Okay, so all right, so that's kind of the end of our today's show. I just really quick want to make sure everybody knows like the action items we're going to leave them with. So the very first thing is connect with Sarah and me. If you're not my connection on LinkedIn, request me. Let's become friends. So you can have this information. Connect with Sarah. Sarah, can you tell people how they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, of course, Sarah Bumgardner. My email address is right up there. You can email me. I'm here to help, to answer questions. You can find us afma.com as well. And I've got 2, if we want to drop in a jot form survey as well, because I'm here to help and to resonate. So give me your feedback. I want feedback. I want to know if this is helpful information, if there's another topic out there we should be touching on, let me know, because I want to cater this to the military spouses. I want to cater this to everybody out there who's listening. How can I be of best assistance and to help and to make sure we're all in this together and we're moving along through this path?
Yeah, so I did drop the jot link into the comments. And again, this will be put on LinkedIn as well for people that are watching via LinkedIn. But this is going to just help Sarah really tailor her information. to make sure she's giving you the best. So give her some feedback. I looked at the form. It'll take you literally like 2 minutes to fill out. So if you got 2 minutes to spare to grab some feedback for her, that would be super appreciated. Next up, make sure you go and sign up for the upcoming series. And then last but not least, we want you to go ahead and take a look at what AFMA has to offer. If you are transitioning out, moving forward, actually in this retirement Facebook group that I'm part of, there was this big question about AFMA, by the way, which I thought was pretty darn awesome. But it basically what it was is like, there's so many options for that wealth management portion after you retire. What do we do? So anyway, just give them a look. Take a peek and see what they offer. See if it's what's right for you and your family. I love that fiduciary responsibility piece of this. I think that's amazing. So, okay. Final out. Here we go. Thank you so much for joining Sarah and I today as our audience, I guess, our viewing audience, I guess is what we would call it. We really appreciate you being here. We hope this information that you received is good information and that you are benefiting from this. And then please go visit SpouseLink.org. If you're a spouse, active duty, or retiring, they have so much great information, blog information, connection information, community information, location information. It is all there on SpouseLink.org. And then finally, don't forget to connect with us here on LinkedIn. And thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your wisdom with us today. We really appreciate you having you on.
Well, thanks, Anna. I can't wait for the next one. We kind of dive more into that budgeting series. So I'm so looking forward to it. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. All right, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.